You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hi there, Young and the Restless fans. Phyllis Summers is looking pretty bad this week with Sharon Newman missing and her car found in the river. And Red hits back when she faces accusations of foul play against Sharon, and then things get even worse for her. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we're getting into just how bad things go for both Phyllis and Sharon this week. But first, please subscribe if you're not following us. So on Tuesday's episode of Y&R, you'll see Phyllis telling Billy she really has given up on her revenge fixation on Sharon. She tells him she wants to focus on the Newman revenge plan with him and helping him get Chancellor Industries back from Victor and Nikki on one condition. She wants her son Daniel to have a major role at Chancellor when they get it back. Easy peasy. But then everything turns on its ear. Summer Newman shows up with a huge update. Sharon has been missing since New Year's Day. Phyllis is completely unconcerned, and she thinks Sharon has just flaked out and ran off like she's done in the past, which she has done. If you've been watching the show for a while, you know, she's run off to New Orleans, she's run all different places. And in fact, Phyllis thinks Sharon is on a beach somewhere where there's no extradition for, you know, murder and other crimes. But Summer insists that this is bad and everybody's really worried. And since Billy was still there talking with Phyllis, this is all at Society this week, he decides to chime in. Billy thinks it's dodgy timing that Sharon went missing just as Phyllis was saying, yeah, I'm going to chill out and let things go. I'm not going to focus on Sharon. And then Billy point blank asks Phyllis if she knows what happened to Sharon. And guess what? Phyllis does not like that one bit. She admits, yeah, she wanted Sharon to face justice for what she did, but insists that her going missing is not Phyllis's fault. She's very insistent about that. So Billy backs off and apologizes for implying that Phyllis was out there getting vigilante, you know, Batman justice on Sharon. And when Phyllis then kind of rants to Summer about people always suspecting her of things, thinking the worst of her, well, then her daughter has to remind Phyllis, you know, you've been ranting like a lunatic about Sharon for months. Most of the town has heard you making threats. And of course, Summer doesn't want to think her mom is capable of doing something to Sharon, but this is bad optics. And Phyllis doesn't like that Summer considered for even a moment that she might have actually done this. So Phyllis does say if something terrible happened to Sharon, well, that's karma coming for her. And that's bad optics too, because it makes her seem, you know, unsympathetic and unconcerned. Phyllis remains convinced that Sharon killed Heather and framed Daniel, despite Sharon saying that the hypnosis revealed somebody else was in the apartment. And Phyllis also wants Summer to remember all the things that Sharon has done in the past. And while Phyllis is talking to Billy and Summer, by the way, there's a very important and frightening phone call happening across town. Chance calls Nick Newman and tells him they dredged Sharon's car out of the river. Her body wasn't in it, but it went over the bridge right where she dumped Heather's body. And as viewers know, Phyllis did not do anything to Sharon other than make threats and rant and just aggravate her. But all this is Ian Ward's plan. What's interesting is Jordan went ahead and drove Sharon's car off the bridge, but then she hid Sharon down in the sewer, locked up in chains. So I suspect Jordan went ahead and drove the car off, so Ian thinks she actually followed his orders to send Sharon to a, quote, watery grave. That's where he wanted her. And, you know, Jordan may still put her in that watery grave, but for now, she has got Sharon as a hidden bargaining chip in case Ian doesn't follow through and target Claire soon, like he promised. So here's what's coming next for Phyllis. I'm sure we're going to see her before then, but by Friday, Jordan again goes rogue on Ian, and this time, I think Phyllis is the one that Jordan gets hold of. So Ian is expecting to hear that Jordan set up Phyllis to make it look like she ran Sharon's car off the bridge. There's a lot of of ways to do that. You could do some paint scrapes against Phyllis's car, or whatever, to just, some paint scrapes of Sharon's SUV so that Ian can see Phyllis arrested and tie up those loose ends. But on Friday, I suspect Jordan is going to snatch Phyllis, stash her down in the sewer in a matching set of chains alongside Sharon. And at that point, Jordan could actually turn around and drive Phyllis's car off the bridge too, whether that's what Ian told her to do or not. So it would look like that Phyllis hit Sharon's car and then lost control of her own car, right? And if Chance and the cops find Phyllis's car in the same area, they'll assume that she drove Sharon off the road in a fit of rage. And then the cops will be looking for 2 bodies instead of 1. So there's a lot of ways this can go. And if Jordan stashes both the women, she can always come back later, drug them, and then toss them into the river so that they'll both drown and their bodies will be found. That way, Ian still gets his frame job. And with both of them dead, then Phyllis can't even defend herself. And, it'll kind of be the perfect golden frame job. And if Ian doesn't do what Jordan wants, doesn't target Claire, then she can turn around and blackmail Ian and tell him that she's got the woman he wants dead, Sharon, and the woman he wants blamed, Phyllis, hidden where he can't find them. And that way, Ian's hands will be tied. He'll have to do what Jordan wants, which is, target Claire, ruin her life. And it's also hard to say how many actual days it's going to be in Genoa City between Tuesday's episode where Billy basically accuses Phyllis of doing something to Sharon and Friday when Jordan goes rogue. Sometimes an episode is the same thing as a day in the life on the soap, but other times a whole week on Young the Restless can, a whole week's worth of episodes can be just one day in Genoa City. You can always tell by looking at where they are, what they're doing, who they're talking to, and what they're wearing. So when Chance notifies Nick about Sharon's car being pulled out of the river, it is morning because Nick had gotten up at Sharon's house and then gone over to his parents. So morning or early afternoon. So it may be that same day, but late afternoon or evening when Jordan snatches Phyllis when she goes rogue on Friday. I don't 100% know she's snatching Phyllis. I feel like that's what she's going to do just because of other spoilers. That way, it can look like, they can also make it look like Sharon's car being found sent Phyllis into a panic and she ran off. But I still think, bottom line, both the cars crashed in the river, 2 bodies. Jordan can do whatever she needs to set up the frame job if Ian does what she wants. And, he might be none the wiser that she went rogue if he does what she asked him to. Then she doesn't even have to tell him and she can just go toss him in the river and it's all good. I am super excited to see Phyllis wake up in the sewer chained to Sharon for several reasons. And that's how I hope it goes. First, the last place Phyllis wants to be is stuck anywhere with Sharon. Second, if Phyllis wakes up next to Sharon and sees they're both kidnapped victims of a psycho, then Phyllis will have to admit Sharon was right. She was set up. She didn't kill Heather. And, that's going to eat it red. And of course, Phyllis is not going to let it go that Sharon framed Daniel. But given that bad people tampered with her drugs, I don't think Sharon's going to be held accountable for the framing. So I do expect an exciting Friday cliffhanger for Phyllis. And then by next week, according to spoilers, Sharon and Phyllis should be in this life and death dilemma. They'll have to work together to survive. Just one thing to bear in mind for this week's Y&R episode. So President Jimmy Carter is, he passed away and he is being transported from Atlanta to Washington, D.C. on Tuesday in advance of his Thursday funeral. And then he'll be flown back to Georgia on Thursday for a private service and burial. So there's motorcades on both. There's events in D.C. So CBS Daytime could interrupt Tuesday or Thursday for coverage of the motorcade or any of these events based on when Y&R airs on the East Coast and in Central Time. I don't think there should be a preemption, but you know how sometimes with the news coverage, they run a special report, talk about his life and all the things, they could do something like that. So we could see soap interruptions that could delay some of these events. So just be aware of that.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.